It was a quiet morning at the Ceiba airport in Puerto Rico until alarms blared across the base, shattering the tropical calm. The ground shook as a massive U.S. Air Force C-17 Globemaster III, a gray Leviathan parked on the tarmac, roared to life. Its four powerful engines spooled up with deafening whine, rapidly building to a thunderous crescendo that vibrated to the very bones of onlookers. This was no routine drill. Within seconds of startup, the crew received an urgent, encrypted order: immediate takeoff. All standard pre-flight checks were waived. No delay. Through the cockpit canopy, witnesses could see the crew's frantic but precise movements. The pilot's voice, tense and sharp, cut through the radio static, shouting to his team, "We're going hot, now." The colossal aircraft began to roll, not with the usual procedural languor, but with aggressive purpose, its nose pointed toward the runway like a spear. As it thundered down the asphalt and lifted its immense weight into the sky, a palpable tension remained on the ground. The sudden, violent departure left behind a trail of kerosene-scented air and a single, glaring question hanging over the base. What grave crisis were they racing toward? Something serious, something global, was unmistakably unfolding. Reports soon crackled across command networks, revealing the reason for the sudden, violent scramble. A nearby long-range radar system had painted an unidentified, non-responsive aircraft drifting deliberately into the heavily restricted airspace near Puerto Rico's northern coast. This was no commercial liner off course. It was a potential threat in a sensitive military zone. The massive C-17 Globemaster, part of a specialized rapid response unit stationed at Ceiba, was the closest available heavy-lift asset. While not a fighter jet, its sheer size and capability were needed for this specific emergency deployment, potentially to airdrop rapid reaction forces or specialized equipment to a remote location. Every second of delay amplified the risk. The pilot, a decorated Air Force major with over a decade of experience, was briefed in real time. The order was absolute. He had less than 90 seconds to get the 170-ton aircraft airborne. On the flight deck, there was no time for meticulous, multi-page pre-flight checklist. This was pure, unadulterated procedure-breaking urgency. It came down to raw instinct, thousands of hours of drilled muscle memory, and an unshakable trust in the machine and his crew. With a final confirmation from his co-pilot, he pushed the throttles to their stops, hurling the giant gray aircraft down the runway and into the unknown. Eyewitnesses on the perimeter fence described the C-17 not just rolling, but hurtling down the runway with ferocity that defied its immense size. The four engines screamed in a unified, deafening protest, trailing visible heat waves that distorted the humid tropical air. Against all visual intuition, the enormous aircraft did not lumber into the sky. It lifted off an aggressive, steep climb that seemed to defy gravity itself. For a few heart-stopping moments, ground crews and personnel held a collective breath, watching the gray giant claw for altitude, its underbelly seeming to graze the tops of the palm trees. Inside the vibrating cockpit, alarm chimes sounded as expected. The crew reported transient engine warnings triggered by the violent, unsequenced throttle-up, but the pilot's voice was a rock of calm amidst the digital cacophony. His hands were steady on the controls. His eyes, flicking between instruments, were stable, systems nominal. Climbing through 10,000 feet, he radioed back to the tense command post, his tone as measured as if he were on a training sortie. It was an incredible display of airmanship, where years of rigorous training fused with innate coolness to master a moment of extreme pressure. The mission, whatever it was now airborne. Once airborne and stabilized in its steep climb, the C-17's sophisticated radar and sensor suites immediately went active, sweeping the vast blue expanse for the intruder. The crew, their hearts still hammering from the violent takeoff, worked with methodical precision to pinpoint the contact. The tension in the cockpit was a palpable force, thick with the possibility of a genuine threat. However, as they closed the distance and established visual confirmation through their systems, the situation clarified. The unidentified aircraft was not hostile, but a distressed civilian cargo plane that had suffered a complete failure of its communication systems, blindly straying into protected airspace. Though the threat level was downgraded, the significance of the pilot's swift, decisive response was undiminished. By scrambling instantly, he had prevented a potential diplomatic incident and a major national security scare, ensuring that air defense systems did not escalate to a higher alert status. Air Force officials, in a later briefing, confirmed that the crew's actions, while appearing drastic to observers, followed strict emergency protocol to the letter. What seemed to the world like a reckless dash was, in reality, a perfectly executed drill under live conditions. It wasn't just a takeoff. It was the ultimate test of readiness, a validation of their training and the robustness of their aircraft. In the face of the unknown, they had passed with flying colors, proving that the shield of vigilance was always active. After nearly an hour in the air, the C-17 returned safely to Ceiba, its massive shadow passing once more over the now-quiet base. As it taxied and finally rolled to a stop, a crowd of ground crews, maintenance personnel, and fellow airmen who had watched the dramatic departure spontaneously erupted in applause. The tension of the scramble had broken into a wave of admiration and relief. The pilot, descending the crew ladder, removed his helmet to reveal a face marked not by panic, but by focused calm. He offered a modest smile to the gathered crowd, deflecting the hero's welcome with a simple, professional shrug. "Just doing my job," he said, his voice barely audible over the ticking sounds of the cooling engines. But in the end, this wasn't just another flight log entry. It was a powerful, real-time demonstration of the razor's edge on which security rests. From blaring alarms to a roaring takeoff in under 90 seconds, the event served as a stark and potent reminder of the incredible readiness and rapid response capability of the U.S. Air Force, proving that when every second counts, a crew and their machine are always prepared to answer the call.